So with most of the preparations for Wimbledon done, with only a few tournaments coming up next week, we have the top seeds have been confirmed. So we know who's going to be seeded going into Wimbledon. Of course, the draw comes out at the end of next week. Let's go see who is seeded, but also who is not seeded. All right, so taking a look on the women's side first. And the top 4 seeds are going to be Sabalenka, Gauff, Pegula, and Paolini. Paolini just got to that number 4 spot with Jung going down after not playing this week. So those are going to be the top 4 going into Wimbledon. The top 8 are Zhang, Keys, Ondreeva, and Swiatek. Swiatek coming in at number 8 is crazy, but at least she won't have to play against one of those top 4 players until the quarterfinals. Some of the other players in that top 16, of course, Navarro's in there. You've got Raducanu as well, who is a former Wimbledon champion. Anisimova, another dangerous player there. Svitolina and Mukova, both very dangerous players in that top 16. And then rounding out the top 32 for the ladies, of course, the defending champion, Krejcikova, number 17 in the rankings. Samsonova, very dangerous player on the grass as well. Vekic, who had a great run at Wimbledon last year, she's the 22nd seed. And Kessler, she actually sneaks into the 32 seeds after having a great win and winning in Nottingham and getting a career high ranking. So she just gets seeded at the very end of this tournament. Let's have a look at the players that are unseeded that are going to be really dangerous for this tournament. Starting on the women's side, so Belinda Bencic, she's going to be a very dangerous player who's unseeded. Nobody wants to play her in a first round. Emma Raducanu, also a dangerous unseeded player going into Wimbledon. Katie Bolter, she's also going to be a dangerous player who's unseeded, especially playing a Brit in the UK is always going to be dangerous. Naomi Osaka also going to be unseeded at Wimbledon. Nobody wants to play Osaka in the first rounds of slams. And Vondrousova will also come in unseeded, and after winning in Berlin, and the players that she beat in Berlin, she's got to feel pretty good about herself, but nobody wants to see her in the draw. Let's go over to the men's side of things, and the top 4 for the men are going to be Sinner, Alcaraz, Zverev, and Draper. Draper overtaking Fritz and Djokovic just to get that number 4 seed, which is super important to avoid Alcaraz and Sinner. The top 8 rounded out is Fritz, Djokovic, Musetti, and Rune in that order. Looking at the top 16, you've got Medvedev at number 9, who just made the Hella final. Shelton there at number 10. Will be really interested to see how he does. Tiafoe, pretty good on the grass. Pushed Alcaraz to 5 sets last year's Wimbledon, so he's at number 12. Mensik comes in as the number 15 seed, so we'll see what happens with him as well. And then rounding out the top 32 seeds for Wimbledon, you've got Humbert, who's been a very good grass court player over the time. Dimitrov's in there as well in that top 32. Lehechka, of course, after playing really well in Queen's Club, he's going to be one of the low seeds. And then Bublik, probably the most dangerous player in the low seeds after winning Haller and, of course, beating Sinner on the grass this week. Nobody wants to see him in the draw going into Wimbledon. So very interesting to see how the draw comes out and how these seeds kind of fall and who gets to play who in the 3rd round, 4th round, and quarterfinals onwards. On the men's side of things, Hurkacz, he's going to come in unseeded at Wimbledon. We all know how much damage he can do with that serve on the grass. Diallo, he's also going to come in unseeded. That's going to be really dangerous. He actually won a title on grass not too long ago. Batista Agut, after having a really good week this week in Queen's Club, also unseeded, very dangerous. Fonseca hasn't quite shown on the grass what he can do yet, but it feels like a surface that maybe could complement his aggressive game style, so interested to see where he falls in the draw. And Riley Opelka, with that big serve, nobody wants to see Opelka in their part of the draw. So some players there that are unseeded that we should watch out for in the first couple of rounds for the big guns. So there it is. That is what we are seeing with the seeded players and also some of the unseeded players. Let me know down in the comments below, though, because there's a lot of unseeded players you could say are dangerous at Wimbledon, because Wimbledon is really kind of open. It feels like, especially on the women's side, some of the random champions have come from the lower seeds, or some of the unseeded players in times. And on the men's side of things, it feels like the top guys are the favorites, but there are definitely some dangerous players that are lower ranked that could trouble them, or maybe trouble some of the other top seeds in the first few rounds. But there it is. That is the Wimbledon seeds. The Wimbledon tournament starts on Monday next week, and the draw comes out later this week.